So first of all, Tashi Dele, greetings to all of my Dharma friends. I hope that you are well and I hope that you are happy.
아니 다들이 간조 tani 로르가 비니미사 다른 마음 뭐지 하는데 마지데 찬을 다들이 땐데 연락 진이가 돈을 tani 공 야고 나오나 지레 다지 샤고나 오지 그들마 로이스.
So we have been going through these steps of the Lamrim, or the stages of the path, and in the previous video, Geshe concluded his presentation of the Four Noble Truths, and this brings us now to the topic of the 12 links of dependent arising, or dependent origination. And Geshe was explaining that he'll present these 12 links a little bit like a meditation, specifically like a glance meditation.
다 스두시나요. 니네 대신 니네직 대학에 대화요나 이니 menji 땐데 연락 진이가 돈을 만도와 다음에 받고 지레 되어레스.
So any person who is seeking a real and stable happiness, there is no way to be able to meet that goal of that stable happiness without an understanding of these 12 links.
땐데 연락 진이가 돈을 대셔야 돼. 코인요다 강가 로로스더니 슈시험보이는 주주인을 했더니 저도 지에 가르라 되는 용거들. 자와 가르라 되는 용거들. 연락 가르라 되는 용거들.
So in terms of these 12 links of dependent origination, what are they showing or what are they explaining? They are explaining how all of the difficulties or problems of samsara, a cyclic existence, whether big or small, that they come as a result of cause and effects, and they explain how those causes and effects or results arise and what the branch causes are, what the root causes are, and so forth.
다원아 대주니 된도도 하고 자서 근데 판 매봐줘야라 싸와 간지는 매봐줘 그거는 연락 간지는 매봐줘 그거는 네 류도세나 뭔데 쇼진 되는 거 알아스
룸도
된데 연락 진이 잘로라 그래서 내면은 내면도 그래 말이 밤에서나 싸와면서나 연락면도 연락 내면서는 내면도 오른 바지도 거치로 알아스.
So one of the things that the 12 links is explaining is about the root and the branch afflictions, and it explains these roots and branch afflictions from a point of view of cause and effect. So for example, it might speak about if you get rid of the root of ignorance, what is the result of that? If you get rid of the various branch afflictions, if you apply the antidote and get rid of it, what is the result of clearing that away? So it presents these as causes and effects.
저 소소 같으니 레사키 미스드시나 소소 다음에 소소를 빼지 않는 것도지 실로 시도야 보세는 그래 에보 시도 살림에 시도질 야 보질 빼지 않는라. So
Geshe was explaining when you're thinking about this topic of the 12 links of dependent arising, you think, for example, of the accumulator of karma as yourself, and then you use yourself as an example to go through and formulate an understanding of these 12 links. Similarly, you can use an external example of a living thing, such as an apple tree or an orange tree, for example, and you can reflect on the 12 links using that as well.
다 주니데 아니 레야레도 모아서 남들 바도 뭐 릴라고 지소노도나 아니 시도 채설을 주바고요 아레스 아니 제니를 주바고요 아레스.
So it is said that when we speak about these 12 links, we want to do this for in a way for beginners that is easy to understand, but we can stay in terms of exhausting the 12 links, going through a complete sequence of these. This can happen in 2 lifetimes, and it can also happen in 3 lifetimes. And also it will help us to more easily understand if we divide these links into 2 categories, the causes and the results or the effects. So if we take an easier example, we would think that for the sake of ease of the example, in the previous lifetime we were a human being, and we are again a human being in this lifetime. So those 6 causes that we accumulated in the previous rebirth are now manifested as results in our current life. And so let us enumerate these 12, specifically the causes. So when we speak of the causes, they are ignorance, volitional karma, consciousness, craving, grasping, and existence. So those causes that we are the ones that we amassed in the previous lifetime.
지 리피텐데 시제 주게텐데 리피텐데 소이텐데 시이텐데 가시텐데 세 주게 한번 센터
And so Geshe is then explaining that once we have begun to form in our mother's womb in this lifetime, then we experience the results of that set of 6 from the previous life. And so those results that are manifesting are the link of name and form, the link of the 6 sources, the link of contact, the link of feeling, the link of birth, and the link of aging and death.
다 단다 때는 리뷰 주니까 요 지주에 레카치 시한으로 요래 대텐데 연도 시와지 마게 텐데가
Also Kewadi So Geshe also just wants to explain for the sake of clarity. Also, in this lifetime, right, we are also amassing causes through ignorance, volitional karma, and so forth. But those causes that we are amassing in the current lifetime, they are part of a different set of 12, right? Because those are the causes that will manifest as results in the future lifetime. And so because, right, going through these links is kind of like turning through a wheel, then the illustration, right, the artistic illustration of these 12 links shows that wheel. So because in order to achieve that freedom of liberation, we need to understand and abandon these 12 links, then for the sake of being able to familiarize ourselves with these 12 links, Geshe is going to lead a short glance meditation on them. And we just want to have this thought, this intention that I'm going to relax my body and mind. I'm not going to let my mind go in all sorts of different directions. I'm going to keep it steady and peaceful. In terms of this support that we have of this human body, this amazing human body, from what causes did this arise? Well, the first that brings us to this compelled rebirth is ignorance. Ignorance means not seeing reality or the way things really are, specifically ignorance of suchness. Similarly, also, there is the ignorance of not understanding cause and effect, the ignorance of not being aware of karma. And in terms of the illustration, ignorance is shown as a blind person, as an example. And in the example of the fruit tree, then, the ignorance could be said to be like the person who plants the seeds in the ground to grow the crop. It's the doer. So then, based upon this ignorance, we are then compelled into actions which accumulate karma. And whether it is wholesome karma, whether it is unwholesome karma, it falls into the second of these 12 links, volitional karma. So this is likened, the volitional karma is likened to a pottery maker. Based upon the actions that they engage in, they construct pots or vessels of all different types of sizes and shapes. And so the volitional karma in the fruit tree example, this would be the actual seed itself, whether an apple or an orange seed. So Geshe is explaining ignorance compels us to the volitional karma, but then once that karma is accumulated, the action stops. So what happens to that latency or that karmic imprint? Where does that go? That karmic imprint goes into what is the third link, consciousness, which we could say generally is the mind. And so this consciousness or this mind in the fruit tree example, Shinkadirwa, it would be like the meadow or the field where the apple or orange seeds are planted. So then once these seeds and so forth are planted within the ground, then the farmer, they will need to water and fertilize the seeds and so forth. So this water and the fertilizing and so forth are compared to numbers Sepa, Limpa, Siparwa, numbers 8, 9, and 10 of the links, craving, grasping, and existence. And we could say that both craving and grasping are particular types of attachment. They're both attachments. And Sepa in the illustration of the 12 links wheel, this is compared to a person drinking alcohol. That's because if you drink like a beer or some alcohol or something, you're not satisfied after just one, right? You crave more and you want to drink more. Grasping, number 9 of the 12 links, grasping is compared to a monkey picking fruits from a tree, right? He or she doesn't want to just pick one fruit. After they pick one, they grasp it more, they grasp it more. So the fruit picking is number 9, grasping. And so number 10 of the 12 links and the 6th of the causes is sipa, or existence. And the illustration for existence is a very pregnant woman who is just about to give birth. And so this is likened to the seed, which is just about ready to germinate and emerge. And so then after this has manifested, then from the previous lifetime when we are first kind of manifesting in our mother's womb, then we come to number 4 of the 12 links, which is the first of the results, Mingsukra, which is name and form.
liter zavare, semtra zavare, inayo umbodo unshirji chaya mares. Liter zavare was, tomotobo. And a semtra zavares, inayo meg unshingado, umbongate chaya mares.
So at this point, right, a little bit of our physical body has manifested in the womb. There is a mind that is inhabiting that body, but it's not fully formed in, for example, the 5 sense consciousnesses have not formed yet. And these are likened to people that are riding in a boat who have not yet reached the other shore. So when we have a boat, right, and you have all kinds of things or products in the boat, whether good or bad, you're trying to get that shipment to the other shore, right? And so we could say that the essence of the subtle body and mind, that these are represented as the physical boat itself. And so then after some time passes, then not just do we have the name and the form, but the sense spheres, right? The sense sources also manifest. And so at that moment, the illustration is like a house without an inhabitant. And so the next stage is number 6, which is contact, which is the third of the results. And this is likened as a couple, as a male and female lying together. And then after that, after contact occurs, right, through the senses having contact with something, we have feelings that start to arise. So the 7th link in the 12, which is the third of the results, is that feeling. And the feeling, which is, the 4th of the results, and the 7th of the 12 links, is given the illustration of a person putting an arrow into the eyeball. And if we take our fruit tree example, this could be the example of the apple tree. The fruit tree begins to bear fruit, and those apples, they start out as small, and they start to become larger and larger. The tree looks very beautiful. It has the complete leaves, it has the fruits abiding on it, and so forth. So then Geshe is just explaining that as we go through these links, right, when we come to number 11, we talked about birth. So birth happens after the body's formed in the womb. But then when we come to number 12, which is the 6th of the results, or the final result, this is aging and death. And this happens towards the end of our lives. So if we think of the tree, when it becomes a little bit older, it becomes unable to bear fruit, and it begins to wither away. This represents aging and death.
예네 좀 마시바지라 되는 중앙에서 타마타마 고강에 지금 이제 왔어.
So, through going through this, hopefully what we have seen is that when we think about our situation here, abiding within samsara, abiding within cyclic existence, right, this all begins with ignorance. It begins with an ignorance of the way things really are, a not seeing, and through that ignorance we encounter all of these difficulties and problems.
니네 기워지거나 니네 타와 요다 요줄에 타와진 거요나 자와 도미 마리바 해야 돼. 지과 더바 이는 이번 대제면도 그래 되는 노시면도 그래 뭐 이제 차총아 정권이 가만 노지과 도와지.
So Geshe was explaining that if we want to achieve a real happiness that is free from all suffering, then what we want to really do is to focus on uprooting, focus on getting rid of ignorance. Once ignorance is eliminated as the first link, volitional karma will dissipate, consciousness will dissipate. This whole cycle will begin to dissipate, just like a piece of ice melts in warm water. So we should think that right now, while we have this human rebirth, while we have this human mind, while we have these good spiritual friends that surround us, what we want to do is to try to realize emptiness. Because once we realize emptiness, then we will be able to get rid of those problems and experience a real happiness. Ignorance tells us that any object that appears, that it has some inherent existence, that if we were to look for some pinpointable essence, we would be able to find it. But in fact, this is not the way things really are. So Geshe said we can actually see this from our own experience. If you take as an example the object of your anger, the person that you're angry at, if the way that you saw them through the lens of that anger was completely accurate, then that vision you have of them as angry would be the way that you always see them. But we can see through our own experience this isn't the case. In fact, when we look at sort of the coarser or the more manifest understandings of emptiness, these are definitely something that we can get a grasp of. These are definitely something that we can apply and use. So Geshe was just explaining that we really can do this. We can realize emptiness, and if we're able to realize it through our meditation and our study, and eventually uproot ignorance, then through uprooting ignorance, all of those links will completely dissipate. Those links will be ceased, right? It's not like you need to go through each of the 12 individually. So we shall pause there. So Geshe said that's sort of like a general presentation of the 12 links. He would also advise you that there are different ways of counting and enumerating the 12 links, different orders, but hopefully what you got from that is if we are able to kind of isolate ignorance and address and uproot ignorance, then all of those links can be dissipated. They don't need to be individually addressed. And if we approach it with that sort of playful attitude, right, then kind of understanding and cultivating these things doesn't need to be difficult. It will be something that brings joy. So please, thinking I can definitely achieve that liberation from suffering, that bliss of liberation, and because I can definitely achieve that, it is definitely worth doing this. Please cultivate happily.
야 되지.
Thanks very much.